Hello, and welcome to the final round battle report for Novacore. Round 5 would be Comm Center, and I would be playing against Hector from Melbourne, playing his Corregidor. This would be a fearsome opponent. This is the list that Hector took, and I think, honestly, it is kind of emblematic of the man. He never plays anything exactly as you think it might be done from a meta perspective. He always has an interesting take, and it is always good. From top to bottom, he had a Vostok. Okay, that's not unusual, but bear with me. A Wildcat heavy rocket launcher, Jazz, an Alguacil hacker, and an Evader. That would be a Fireteam core. There was a Daktari who would not be linked but could join the Fireteam if needed to make up numbers. An Alguacil, Senior Massacre, and a Jaguar. There might have been a Haris or a duo there somewhere. McMurrough, a Tomcat engineer with Zoncat, an Evo Hacker Salyut, a Transductor Zond, a Moran, and a Vertigo Zond. Now, a lot of pieces here are relatively straightforward, but that massive mess of fire teams without really no Evader Flareback, that's just interesting. It's a firewalled, multiple range engagement Corregidor team with a lot of options and, really interestingly, a combination of MSV and Mimetism -6, which Hector sort of stacked expertly. The rest of the list, I mean, it's Corregidor good stuff, but it was played very well, and it played to the kind of game that Hector, for those who've played against him, excels against. He has contingencies for his contingencies, every piece has a purpose, everything functions together, and this was an impressive list to see and play, and Hector played it very well. It was to no surprise that he was coming into round 5 on almost as many points as I was. I think I was playing down this round. I think he had a loss, whereas I had only had a draw. But this would be his. He and I were both aiming for a 4th win to cement our run. This is the table that we played on, and I actually have very little bad to say about this. I will critique it, but there is not a lot I have to say that it needs critique for. This table is a very good example of how to avoid the trap of battle mats with street grids drawn on them. So you can actually see them here on the table, right? You can see there's a big street here, there's a street here, right? I'm drawing the streets out on the map now, and almost without exception, the person designing the map has decided to not put any buildings on those streets. They actually have sort of edged this one forward. It's kind of spilled onto it, but by and large, the map is left to show these streets as empty spaces. This can be a massive trap because these are big, long fire lanes, and sometimes it's way worse than this. You see tables where you have, maybe it's a cross or an H or something like that, and there are just huge open-ass fire lanes all the way across the board because the person designing the table didn't want to put anything on the roads. This table does a fantastic job of accommodating the aesthetic of a street map, having visible streets, without falling into the trap of making an unplayable table. So how does it do that? Mostly it does it with some really clever use of cars and burning barricades. So we've got this bus here with these two cars that appear to have had an accident. There's some cars here, and then there are scrap barricades here and here, a tank here, and then a car here and a scrap barricade there. What this means is that although the streets are clearly visible, there is good, meaningful terrain on them. I wouldn't want to, if you played the map this way in Power Pack, then you're a terrible person and you've just killed whoever is going second, because look at these deployments. But we weren't playing Power Pack, so that's just fine. I'm having flashbacks to a previous CanCon right now. This is smart. This is really well done, and the use of those aesthetically appropriate terrain pieces took what could have been a nightmarish table and made it a really good one. It also has some nice interior spaces. Interiors are not necessary for a map to be good, but in this case, I want to comment on how the interiors were accessible, right? This building here has a bifurcated roof, so you could pick out one section while leaving the other section on to make it accessible in a way that visually communicated still that there's a roof there. That was really good. I don't know who makes these terrain pieces, but I like them. The like stairways up and around they make fascinating and interesting and playable shapes. And then there's a nice long bridge across the road, a bridge down here. You have this high ground section on my left of the table that is very playable as a whole separate game element, and I love that. In fact, there's quite a bit of ability to move between sections of high ground, or the terrain is accessible. We could potentially have played these buildings here as if they had interiors, but when we touched them, they were falling apart a little bit, so we didn't. This table, I suspect, is in need of some TLC when it gets back to probably Melbourne, maybe Sydney. I actually don't know where this is from. I suspect it's not from Queensland, because the Queensland players who were meant to be bringing tables had a series of horrific smooth brain moments, and so brought nothing, which created an emergency to which the Loss of Lieutenant crew responded with genuine aplomb and magnificence. But in any case, I assume this is either a Sydney or a Melbourne table, because it isn't a Canberra one. But yeah, this was awesome. It was good to play on. It produced some interesting dynamics, and it was, above all, it was aesthetically consistent. It solved the street map problem, which is fantastic, and it played well. So props to whoever's table this is. As with every preceding round, I picked my anathematic list, although it was the right choice in this list. It has a strong anti-nomad doctrine, which we saw in round 2, and I would have a chance to put it into play this game. And Hector was playing nomads, and Corregidor in particular. You wanna just kill their hackers. Kill their hackers before they can do anything. It'll make the game way easier than fighting through a Moran hacking network. I had a Whip 16 Lieutenant. Hector did not. I went first. He picked the table side that he's on, and I deployed relatively conservatively, but with a lot of force kind of in this space here. The anathematic would be hidden here. The anathematic was prone behind this. Oh, sorry, the anathematic was hidden here. The Charontid would go down prone as the reserve behind this barricade. And everything else was kind of nooked in with some aggressive impetuous moves set up. Bit and Kiss would be hanging out kind of here, and they would move forward soon. Hector's defense was what I would call a classic Hector defense, which is to say it was really fucking good. We can see some of it here. The Vostok and the Wildcat are both core linked, and their AROs are very well stacked. This corner here and here, it would be very hard to engage one of them without engaging both. You might see the Vostok first, but this corner in particular, the Wildcat and the Vostok are expertly stacked. They are stacked vertically. Hector has used the fact that this is a 2-level building to prop them on top of each other, and it has worked really well. There's also a missile bot on ARO duty way back here with a nice long lane to my deployment zone, a flash pulse bot here, and then lots of other pieces just kind of nooked around here. The bulk of Hector's strength is in this space here, but he has not neglected anywhere else, and the Moran is deployed down there. This is a scenario where you have to kill HVTs. Hector's is here, and mine is nooked in here. There is just space for it to be 16 inches up and behind that building, which I'm very happy with. I was going first, and this being a game versus nomads, I put my game versus nomads plan into action. So I have to get past this Overwatch. So Bit and Kiss Cybermask, and then they move around this way, they cross the gap, they move up here, and I go to fire pitches. Kiss is a bit slower, she fires her pitcher here, and Kiss fires 2 pitches there and there. Unfortunately, he flubs both of them. He needs 14s, it's in good range, but I whiff both shots, which will happen occasionally. This is not the end of the world. There is a plan B. Kiss moves forward, Bit moves forward. Also, Kiss moves forward, Bit moves forward. I move up to sort of as far as I can go before I provoke dodge arrows. Then I split them. Kiss, for her part, will run all the way back to here. So Bit, for her part, will run all the way back to here. And Kiss will just leg it 6 inches out of cohesion to there. He will die or he gets hacked, he gets dual chain rifled, he dies, basically, he explodes. But he places a repeater, because he has deployable repeaters in addition to his pitcher, and he makes the ultimate sacrifice and gets a repeater down there. It takes way more orders than I want to, but you have to do this against nomads if you can. Do not let them play the entire hacking game from a position of strength. Down goes the repeater. It is in range of both of his Alguacile and his Jazz. The anathematic turns up, walks to here, splits burst, unconsciouses them both. This is pretty lucky. Jazz obviously is running with her own Trinity. They both have it. They both have their own firewall because of the Evader. But I am an anathematic, and I have four burst, and I drop both of them down. I have exactly enough orders left to confirm that I am in repeater area of the single Alguacile that is not special, ergo must be the lieutenant, and spotlight it and drop a missile on it. Boom. So I've only killed 3 models, but they are, or not unconscious or killed, but they are both of Hector's hackers and his lieutenant, which means I'm on the front foot in a really significant way. And this is what I mean when, even if I hadn't got the lieutenant kill, knocking out both of his hackers is a really, really strong way to deny effect to all of the other pieces that have been taken to multiply those hackers. This Moran, the fact that it's a repeater, no longer matters. The fact that the Verto goes on can fire guided, no longer matters. It will actually kill some things making direct shots, but it doesn't matter that it's a guided platform anymore. All of this stuff is not important as long as these hackers are unconscious. And because Hector is in loss of lieutenant, he now has a very rough turn. He actually plays it really well. He only has so much that he can do, but the Daktari will crawl around and revive Jazz. I did not have time to do anything about that. I couldn't kill Jazz. I didn't have enough orders because Bit and Kiss had taken so long to get the repeaters down. If I had had extra orders, I would almost certainly have Trinity'd to score the kill. I didn't. Nothing I could do about it. And the rest of Hector's turn, he's spent. He takes a speculative shot with the missile launcher against my Chirontid. It's in good range for him, bad for me. He does a wound and I drop prone. And then McMurrough comes around. Now he comes up onto this building, pops smoke, jumps down. And what he has to do, he will be able to see my anathematic. So he moves around to here and he's trying to dodge. He makes a dodge roll against my anathematic face to face so that he can get within 10 inches and berserk me. This is a really good play because we have seen how dangerous that anathematic is. It has done terrible work and he does not want to have to fight it again with Jazz now that she's not unconscious anymore. But I win the face-to-face roll with my plasma. And plasma is not stopped by total immunity because it is normal ammunition. And McMurrough fails both saves and dies. Or goes unconscious, rather. Which is pretty unfortunate. Hector, honestly, over the course of this game, I had some bad luck at the start and I would have some bad luck later. But this was a game for Hector of consistently rolling like 1 more on the dice than he needed or 1 less than he needed. If he needed a 10 to make a save, he would roll a 9. If he needed a 14 to pass, he would roll a 15. It happened a lot. He was very slightly salty by the end of the game, and frankly, I would have been too. It sucks when you have those games where you're already behind. You've already had someone like absolutely put their foot on your neck, and then you have to try and play back into the game, and the dice just don't let you. And he had that kind of game. My turn 2 is spent basically continuing to put the boot in and try and do some objectives. An important thing that's happened is because Jazz has been healed by the doctor, she has stood up and she is facing the wrong way. So my missile bot moves forward and puts a missile into her and kills her and the Daktari. This is really bad for Hector, but it's just one of those things. He didn't have the orders spare. He spent every command token trying to make the run with McMurrough and then reform the link. There was nothing that could be done. I get smoked down with Datarazi, and the Chirontid moves up and around this way, and I have a smoke gunfighter. Now that the link is down to not having 5 troops, I take out the Wildcat and then the Boss Dog. I put both of them to at least unconscious, and the Daktari is dead, and I can't see an engineer. So these are a really good pair of kills. I then engage the Vertigo Zond back here. I'm in good range now, but Hector has used his Evo Hacker to put enhanced reaction on it, meaning it has burst 2. And on one of its shots, it rolls a 6, which is a crit, which is the end of my Chirontid. I do not survive a second crit from a missile. I go up in smoke, but I have done my job at least. I immediately Mnemonica into the Umbra, meaning I still have a Whip 16 Hacker. In fact, I have 2 now, and I have done enough damage that Hector is really, really behind the 8 ball. Basically, the whole link just about is dead at this point. All of his hackers are gone. The missile has also, I think I've spotlit and killed Senior Massacare as well. The Jaguar that destroyed the repeater in the last turn is killed. A lot of stuff is dead. Hector is not in retreat, but he's perishingly close to it. He brings on an engineer just to try and do some work. There's not a great deal that can be done. I've done my classified when a Taiga creature impetuous into McMurrough and coup de grace him. And so really Hector's turn is just damage control. And so I get my third turn, which is spent with the Whip 16 Umbra. Moving. This might actually even be the second turn. I didn't do that much. Anyway, move. This is the third turn, yeah. And up to here, get a kill, press many buttons, do Predator. And that's that, basically. All that he's done, he scores 2 kills. And specifically, he scores 2 kills by killing the designated target and then killing the Vostok, which is dropped prone. That gets me Predator, which is the second classified. I think I also... My third classified was either telemetry or data scan. He does that as well. I have pressed a comfortable... I use my reigning orders of my anathematic to also press buttons. So I've gotten... At this point, I've pressed all of these buttons and knocked the last of Hector's troops out. He has his Evader Lieutenant, who makes a game run on the Umbra, but there's not really much that he can do. He presses a button, he tries to do a classified, but that's basically the game. I've killed the HVT, I've done all 3 classifieds, and I have pressed, of the 9 buttons, I have pressed 5 of them, and he's pressed 1. He just does not have enough orders or enough specialists to meaningfully take any of these back from me, and that ends the game, and that ends the game. 10, I think it's 10-1. I think Hector has done 1 classified. I've easily killed more specialists. In fact, I'm not sure Hector killed any specialists because the Chironted MSV isn't one. And that's the game, basically. That is anti-nomad doctrine. Ran into the annoying hurdle of the pitches failing to land, which is why sometimes I will try and have an Icadron in the list. But you always have the backup plan of Kiss just running forward and planting a repeater as he dies. So that put me on 4 majors and a draw, which was enough to come second at the event. And it was overall a fantastic event. I got to play an interesting list using pieces that I, for whatever reason, don't often use. It's very rare for me to use the Anathematic or the HMG Chironted, but they were cool. This list is going into the bank. I will be using it again in future, although probably not that much against locals and not that soon. To lose to this list in the way that this list wants to win feels really shitty. It wants to hack all of your hackers to death and establish total info-war superiority, and then if it can, missile your lieutenant. That's, it's not uninteractive. You can defend against it, but it sucks. I over the course of the event, think I got maybe something like 8 missile kills across 5 games, which is kind of about average, and a few of them were reloaded in this game against Hector. I only had 1 against Ed, for example, or 2. It was probably an average of about... I got 0 missile kills against Kev, and would have averaged 2 or 3 in the remainder of the games. So it wasn't like missiles were the first choice kill in every case, but they killed important things. They killed lieutenants. They killed obvious lieutenants. So the list overall, very happy with it, very strong, did some interesting things, was a counter to some things that I would normally struggle with, and it just absolutely dominated the hacking game, which was my plan going into Nova. So I'm pretty happy I got to test that and see it. It's a good strategy, and it worked. But yeah, this list is getting saved, but it's probably not getting played for a while. If you have questions or have other things you'd like me to cover, as always, welcome the feedback. If you had any thoughts about the choice of this series to also focus on terrain analysis and critique, let's be fair, I'm interested to hear about that. Otherwise, this has been a series of videos recorded one after the other, and my jaw hurts, so I'm going to sign out now, and I will see you all again later.